Hi, and welcome back. Today I'm excited to explore the gift of charity with you. And what does that mean? What does charity do? There's a scripture in 1 Corinthians 13:13 that says, "And now abideth faith, hope, and charity. And these three things, and the greatest of these is charity." So even if we have faith, even if we have hope, we still need to have charity. So we're going to explore today what that means and why this gift is so important. And I'll give you steps and ideas of how to develop it. I want to start today by sharing a scripture that really describes charity. And I know these are kind of fancy words and in language we wouldn't necessarily use, but just listen to this. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. Charity does not behave itself unseemly. It seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, and thinketh no evil. It rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth. It beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth. I love that last line because it is helping me understand that anytime we act from our hearts out of charity as we deal with other people, we're never going to be wrong. It's never wrong to offer charity and love to somebody. But I want to break down some of the phrases and talk about them individually so that we can see really how to apply this in our life. The first one, charity suffereth long and is kind. I think of my sister Annie when I read that line. She, in their family, they had a beautiful son, Ian, who had some very special needs, and he wasn't the same as other children. He didn't speak the same. He wasn't able to control his emotions in the same way. He was very honest, which made me laugh so hard. If there was an elephant in the room, he wasn't just going to talk about it. He would sit on it and parade around on it, and I loved that quality of truth within him. He just spoke things as it was, as they were. But there were also times that truth could be a little painful, or in his inability to really fully control his emotions. Sometimes he would say things that were unkind or a little bit hurtful to his parents or siblings. And I just watched that family rally around him and support him and continue to love him and nurture him and just raise him experiencing life in such a beautiful way. And that to me was such kind patience, and they knew his life would not be a full life. He did pass away in his teenage years, and there was even suffering in that, to know that and to understand that, and yet to live open-hearted and love him fully. They were such a great example to me, their family of charity and love. The next thing I wanted to talk about is how charity is not easily provoked, and it thinketh no evil. Sometimes it is easy for me to get offended. I'm a little too sensitive and a little thin-skinned, and that's a challenge for me to not get riled up when someone says something that hurts, but just to accept it and ponder it and, kind of feel it and let it go. But that's a part of charity, that we let go of those things and that happen between us that might not be the best interaction we've had with people, but to not be easily offended and not take things personally. Charity talks a lot about not thinking so much of yourself, but to be thinking of the other person. When I was thinking about this too, I pondered, when have people been the most charitable to me? And when have I been the receiver of that beautiful charity? And there were plenty of years I struggled with depression, as I've talked about on other episodes. But it was really hard for me as a wife. I just couldn't always be my best self. And there were plenty of mornings where I would wake up and remember a conversation from the night before and just feel bad that I hadn't been better emotionally, or I hadn't said kinder things, or maybe I was just plain grumpy, times when I just wasn't at my best self. And on multiple occasions, I have apologized to my sweet husband, saying, I'm really sorry that I was so grumpy or not very kind last night. And he'll say, you were grumpy? I didn't notice. And then wink. And all in that moment, the charity, touched me so deeply, because of course he noticed. You can't not notice. And yet that was such a kind way for him to tell me it was okay. It's okay. And he still loved me, and he would overlook some of those less desirable parts about myself, and I so appreciate that. Charity is the highest, noblest, strongest kind of love. In fact, my daughter just came back from Bolivia, and she brought me this beautiful picture. Charity is described as the pure love of Christ. And so when we think of that love that Christ had for all, that very unconditional, unwavering, unfaltering love that sustained and lifted so many people, that is what charity does. It builds you up, it lifts you up, it brings you to a higher version of yourself. Charity is created by what we're feeling in our heart. And so as we're trying to develop that gift of charity more, it's important that we connect into our heart, that we feel into the compassion within us, that we feel that divine connection to love. Each of us within our heart can connect to such a pure source of divine love. And so as we tap into that, as we connect to our heart, that is when charity flows so much easier for us. There's no greater love or peace than to be filled with that pure love of Christ. And one person that I have always admired that truly walked that path of charity, I feel like every day of her life, is Mother Teresa. This painting is my father-in-law did it for us, and so I love this picture of Mother Teresa. I like to think of her often. She displayed charity in her life in all of her many works and good deeds that she did, helping the poor and the homeless and the needy, and always bringing them to a place of light and love. So if you're struggling to know how to develop charity, or how to bring this gift of charity more fully into your life or into a situation, I have some questions that you can ask that will help you get more onto that path of charity in your interactions with others. So the first is, how can you remove pride from this situation? Is there anywhere that pride is showing up that you can release that? Think of how you feel when you interact with that other person. So instead of getting in the mind, let's feel it. Let's go back into the heart so we can feel that relationship. If there's any anger involved in this situation, can you let that go? And if you've been offended by this situation, is there some way to look at that situation differently? Perhaps the offense wasn't even intended. And the last thing, can you ask God to help you bear this trial with more strength? Charity suffereth long, and sometimes our trials are so long. And so we can ask God to help us find strength in that. I'm grateful that you're wanting to develop charity in your life and understand this gift. I think it's such a beautiful and important aspect to develop within ourselves as we strive to become more Christ-like, to bring more light and love into this world. I know that charity will help each one of us make this world a better place. If this has helped you today, subscribe if you'd like more videos and information coming to you daily. Thanks so much.